Hey everybody, I hope you're doing well today. It's Carpo here. And I just wanted to pose a question real quick, for real. um, just what is the most important information that's being conveyed right now in the world? In other words, I've seen a lot of people giving folks a lot of praise for the types of, say, channels they have on YouTube, or maybe a website, or a group who's making a movement or a change. And people will say, yeah, keep with it, keep at it, you're doing a good job. And so, since there are so many different points of view that are getting pats on the back, it led me to the question of, to live in the world that we want to live in, what is the most important thing right now that is being taught or shown or shared on the internet or in real life, in the daily life? What thing is being conveyed as the most important? In other words, if someone were to be looking up to you and say, what's the most important thing that I should know in my life? What would it be? And I really don't know at this point the answer to this question, other than what I would do, or what I would say on the situation, which is that I think that the most important thing right now that's being conveyed on the internet or in daily life, and I always separate the two because they are separate worlds within the same world, but both of them, the most important thing, I think, is personal empowerment. If you could do anything, if you could share any knowledge with a person that would help them in their life, I think that personal empowerment is the most important one. Because that is a tool that this person can use to find the other answers they need. In other words, when folks talk about waking up the masses, this is akin to trying to teach a beginning math student calculus. You can't just wake people up to the realities of what's going on around them. The human mind is not programmed or set up in its natural form to accept large amounts of information coming forward at one time. So in other words, to be aware of what's going on in the world right now, we have to look around us and use our best judgment and ascertain a little bit at a time until we finally come to the conclusion that things are really messed up and we think we understand a little bit about it. For the average person who's never tackled any of these issues, you can't just expect them to wake up and say, hey, look at this is the truth about taxes, this is the truth about fiat money, this is the truth about enlightenment and spirituality, this is what God is, and blah, 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 and go on and on and on about what's really important. The person is going to shut down. You can only pose bits of information. The best way I've heard someone present it is by saying, plant the seed, plant the seed in someone's mind that there's something else beyond just day-to-day life, and let them decide what's important to them. But what I'm getting at here is I'm trying to put it lightly to say that there's a lot of news out there, a lot of news and information that's being conveyed that gets people really hung up on change and wanting change. News that disappoints sometimes, that really lets us down and says, it's a shame that humanity does this or that. But on the same token, I see a lot of positivity out there and a lot of goodness. And I don't like to dwell on the bad. I know that there's negativity and we don't have to be unaware of it. We take a little bit of everything, but all of this information that we can learn about the world around us is completely useless if we haven't learned how to manage ourselves. And this is what I mean, that you're managing your own microcosm, and in turn, you're better suited for the world that you live in. So I'm sure that most of you would agree that life becomes much easier when you're not fighting against it. That is a form of personal empowerment, to know that. A lot of you also know that you have the power to change your outlook on the world around you, and every day you have the right to change the way you see the world in a way that will benefit you and those around you. That is a form of personal empowerment. Many of you know that you don't have to let people's negativity get to you. But if you choose to, it will multiply inside of you. And that the more negativity that you think about and surround yourself with, the more it will multiply and create worse times for you. And many of you also know that we create our own our own bad lives. You know, much of the negativity in our lives is brought upon by our own actions. That is a personal empowerment, to know that. So all of these things of personal empowerment allow a person to move past the facade that they're not in control, okay? And this is what I see as the obstacle people need to get past, is that you are in control. You are in control of your life. And it's not something that you can turn a switch on. And that's why these folks that are saying, awaken the masses, you can't just present information and awaken people. You see, let me compare this to drug treatment for a minute, because it just popped into my mind that that would be the perfect analogy. When I was on probation, I was forced to quit smoking pot. I didn't want to quit smoking pot, but I had to because my freedom was endangered. So I was reluctant to quit. I did the classes and all the things they told me to do. Okay? I was forced to go to AA. In that group, I didn't want to be there. Therefore, I felt like I was wronged, by being there. I didn't truly have it in my heart to quit, and didn't have the tools developed to desire to quit smoking pot, and I never have. And I went through the class and I quit. I'd stayed sober for 2 years, and I found that in my mind is a perfect comparison to trying to push people into being awake without the personal tools to understand what they're waking up to. In other words, you could write down all the most important things that you think are important in the world right now that we could change. Or let's say, not about ourselves, but about the external world, the system. Usually political. These are political, not spiritual things. These could be related to banking, government, anything like that. There is a lot that's wrong with the world. But no matter how much you tell somebody about these things, they can't just go out and change them or even understand or comprehend them to change them. Because if they don't have personal empowerment, they haven't found it within themselves to seek these truths. In other words, you have to want to find these things, just like you'd have to want to quit using drugs or anything else. You can't be forced into it. And you can't call a person ignorant just because they're not ready to quit the ignorance of life, that drug of ignorance. And you can't deny it. Ignorance is a drug. It's an addiction. Sucks people right in. And I wouldn't say that it's bliss, but awareness has a price. And so through personal empowerment, we can show people what is important. And that's what my personal opinion is. And I think that I'd like to see more people helping others to empower themselves rather than claiming to have the power to change other people. Good night, everybody.